Alright, everyone. Today we are diving deeper. Not headlines, not social media clips, not partisan shouting. We are going to unpack carefully, thoughtfully, what the Department of Homeland Security says it accomplished under President Trump's second administration, how it connects to the national security strategy, and how it fits into the broader theory of Homeland Security. This is not a short video like my other videos. This is a more lecture style. And whether you are a general viewer trying to understand what is happening or a doctoral student studying Homeland Security as a complex adaptive system, this is for you. We are going to walk slide by slide through 9 core pillars. And throughout this discussion, we will anchor ourselves in the DHS official release, the November 2025 National Security Strategy, the Quadrennial Homeland Security Review, and the theoretical debates around Homeland Security as a discipline. Let's begin. So, let's start with the big picture. The DHS release describes President Trump's first year back in office as historic and record breaking. The major numbers highlighted are nearly 3 million illegal aliens left the US, an estimated 2.2 million self deportations, over 675,000 deportations, fentanyl trafficking cut by more than half, $13.2 billion saved, zero illegal releases at the border since May 2025, record low border patrol apprehensions. Now pause. Whether someone supports or opposes the administration, these numbers are being presented as evidence of a dramatic operational shift. The framing is clear. This is about restoring the rule of law. This is about deterrence. This is about enforcement credibility. The Trump administration presents this as fulfilling a mandate given on November 5, 2024: secure the border, end illegal immigration, remove criminal aliens, protect taxpayers. From a Homeland Security perspective, this marks a shift back toward what we might call a hard enforcement model. And if you bring in Chris Belevedi's framework, Homeland Security is a wicked problem. It's shaped by language communities. In this language community, Homeland Security equals border enforcement, immigration control, and removal operations. This is a definitional stance. Because, remember, Beleveda outlined 7 defensible definitions of Homeland Security. This administration is clearly emphasizing the terrorism and border centered definition. It's narrowing Homeland Security toward sovereignty protection, and that matters. Definitions shape budgets, budget shape operations, operations shape institutional culture. The November 2025 National Security Strategy emphasizes an America First approach. The document outlines several priorities: survival and sovereignty of the Republic, strong border control, military rebuilding and nuclear deterrence, energy independence and dominance, reindustrialization and supply chain security, fair trade and intellectual property protection, cultural and spiritual health, peace through strength. Let's talk about this conversationally. The strategy says America must be strong at home before it can project power abroad. It emphasizes avoiding overextension. It emphasizes burden sharing with allies. It calls for NATO countries to spend 5% of GDP on defense. It focuses heavily on stabilizing the Western Hemisphere. It calls for rebalancing trade with China. It shifts Middle East strategy toward partnership instead of nation building. And here's something important. Economic security is treated as national security. Reindustrialization becomes a security issue. Supply chains become strategic vulnerabilities. Energy dominance becomes geopolitical leverage. That's not just policy, that is doctrine. Now think about the QHSR. The Quadrennial Homeland Security Review is DHS capstone strategy document. It emphasizes enduring missions and long-term planning. The 2023 QHSR added a sixth mission: combat crimes of exploitation and protect victims. But under the Trump administration's framing, we see emphasis placed on border control, migration deterrence, economic sovereignty, strategic competition. It aligns national security and homeland security more tightly. The boundaries between external and internal threats blur, and this is consistent with post 9/11 integration trends. So, enforcement. The DHS release states 675,000 deportation, 2.2 million self-deportations, 70% of ICE arrests were criminal aliens, 1,416 known or suspected terrorists arrested, 1,392 removed, over 7,000 gang arrests, 120% more ICE officers hired. There's a major scaling of enforcement capacity. Additionally, DHS secured over 1,255,287 agreements with state and local law enforcement. That expands federal immigration authority at the local level. This is decentralization of enforcement power. And here's where theory becomes relevant. Levick's discussion highlights competing visions: terrorism-focused, all hazards, jurisdiction-specific definitions. The administration leans heavily toward the terrorism and criminal enforcement model, but Homeland Security also includes disaster response, cyber infrastructure, exploitation crimes. So we must ask, thus, focusing heavily on immigration enforcement narrow the homeland security enterprise, or does it strengthen core sovereignty functions? That depends on perspective. The DHS release also highlights locating 132,725 unaccompanied children who were allegedly lost. That speaks to humanitarian framing within enforcement narrative. Enforcement and humanitarian concerns are intertwined here, and that tension has always existed in Homeland Security. Security versus liberty, enforcement versus compassion, centralization versus federalism. The Coast Guard section is fascinating. The release claims 470,000 pounds of cocaine seized, 177 million lethal doses prevented, 5,000 lives saved, 110% recruitment goals exceeded, 1.8 billion tons of cargo facilitated, $5.4 trillion economic engine supported. That's both law enforcement and commerce protection. This is important. Homeland Security isn't just stopping threats, it's ensuring uninterrupted flow of commerce. The Coast Guard is uniquely positioned: military service, law enforcement authority, maritime border protection, search and rescue. Force design 2028 represents structural modernization, and that aligns with complex adaptive systems thinking. Threats evolve, smuggling routes shift, drone technologies expand. The DHS release emphasizes a 6 to 1 return on investment. That's economic framing again. Security as fiscal efficiency and drone security are central themes. The creation of a program executive office for unmanned aircraft systems and counter UAS marks modernization push. Drones are described as both industry tools and potential threats. The strategy. Invest $115 million in counter-drone systems. Protect America 250 events. Secure FIFA World Cup venues. Meanwhile, CISA retired 10 emergency directives, issued joint cybersecurity advisories, released venue protection guides. This shows institutional maturation. Emergency directives are retired when compliance milestones are met. That suggests baseline cyber hygiene improved, but cyber remains dynamic, and this aligns with Belawade's complexity argument. Homeland Security operates in complex adaptive systems. Cyber threats evolve faster than bureaucracy. Institutions must constantly learn. Include $8 billion recovered, $31.2 million contract savings, 2,092 fraud investigations, $2.2 billion individual assistance, $15.3 billion public assistance, digital tools accelerating payments. This reflects fiscal accountability emphasis. The phrase used is federal supported, state led. That's federalism rebalancing. The QHSR emphasizes partnerships across federal, state, local, tribal, and private sectors. This aligns with that principle. But under this administration, the narrative are Homeland Security stress tests. They require border security, intelligence coordination, cyber resilience, drone mitigation, maritime protection. The DHS release frames these events as historic opportunities requiring historic security measures. CWMD will deploy to 11 host cities. That's the largest deployment in its history. Mega events showcase integrated Homeland Security enterprise functioning. Intelligence and Analysis nominated 4,600 people to the terrorist watch list. Fusion centers identified gang members. Device exploitation uncovered derogatory information. This is data-driven security. But recall the big data problem mentioned in the theoretical discussion. Volume alone is not insight. Frameworks are necessary. Theory guides analysis. Without conceptual clarity, data overwhelm. DHS release concludes with optimism. The best is yet to come. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem, the department emphasizes sovereignty, deterrence, economic strength, modernization, operational expansion. The national security strategy reinforces peace through strength, burden sharing, balance of power, energy dominance, reindustrialization. Now, let's step back. Homeland security is not static, it evolves. Belvedere reminds us there's no single definition. It's a social construct shaped by interests and context. Under this administration, Homeland Security is defined strongly through border control, immigration enforcement, economic nationalism, strategic competition. Future administrations may redefine it again. That's the nature of rigged problems. So, what have we seen? We have seen operational scaling, enforcement emphasis, institutional modernization, economic national security integration, mega event preparedness, cyber and drone innovation. The Trump administration frames this as restoring sovereignty and strength. Critics may frame it differently, but as scholars and citizens, our task is understanding doctrine, understanding institutional shifts, understanding how Homeland Security definitions evolve. Because Homeland Security isn't just policy, it is governance philosophy. It reflects how a nation balances freedom and protection, and that conversation is ongoing. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you found this helpful, share it. And I'll see you in our next deep dive into Homeland Security theory and practice.